ones. On the Denver Broncos podcast, we are breaking down what the future is at receiver for the Broncos, and we've got a very special guest who knows a lot about receivers in the NFL, and then we're going to talk about some other takeaways from the NFL owners' meetings earlier this week, and it all starts now. Benny and the Jets, and I guess we're the Jets. Henry and I are the Jets today because we've got our superstar Bennie Fowler joining the show today on the DNVR Broncos podcast. We are live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your local Front Range Toyota stores, and we are the DNVR Broncos podcast. Super Bowl 50 champ Bennie Fowler, Henry Chisholm, we got you here, and Dion behind the camera, and Zach Stevens rocking and rolling with you today. Fellas, how we doing?
Doing really good, man. Appreciate you guys having me back on. Excited to talk some more draft stuff and just really hear you guys' perspective, share a little bit of mine, and I don't know, it's always fun to be here. So,
man, and it's always fun to have you, and I can tell you the Toyota chat and everyone tuning in is thrilled that you are on, and awesome. No better person to talk receivers with than you, Benny. So kind of, I think what the vision is for today is ask you, what do the Broncos need at receiver, if they need anything, and then filter that through Henry's draft brain to figure out what type of receiver that is. Is it a first-round guy? Is it a fourth-round guy? And then identify what guys those are, and then talk about some other things that we learned from the Broncos this week as well. And guys, we are 3 weeks away from the draft. 3 weeks away from this thing happening. And so let's start with the wide receiver spot, because it has been so unbelievably quiet on the wide receiver front. And entering this offseason, a lot of people outside thought wide receiver was one of the biggest positions of need for the Broncos. And yet they didn't make a move in free agency. They still haven't yet. They haven't made a trade. Sean Payton, every time we talk to him, says how much he likes this receiver room. And I've heard that it's not just him publicly saying that, it's him privately saying that as well. And that he doesn't feel like there's a need for receiver yet. There are still some people that think maybe the Broncos will draft a receiver in the first round potentially, because they actually have that big of a need. So I want to start here. How is this quiet indicating that they're going to make a big move in the draft, or is this quiet on the receiver front indicating that, no, we should actually take Sean Payton for his word and that he really does like the Broncos receivers and they don't need to make a big move?
I think we should take Sean for his word, and also I think he might have something up his sleeve, but I definitely think we should take him for his word. And after we did a couple of shows together, I actually went back and I got the PFF login. I know Henry and I were just talking about that before. And I've actually taken a look at all the targets for Troy Franklin, the catches and targets for Vele, obviously Courtland Sutton. And I can see why he's very comfortable in terms of Troy. I mean, what do you have? 43 catches as a rookie.
Yep.
That's really good to have 43 catches as a rookie. Vele, I think, was in the 40s in terms of catches as well. So when you think about the receiver position, 80 catches from two rookies is pretty good. You will take that. And then Courtland Sutton has 89 catches. Now you add in the Evan Ingram element into the receiver core. Obviously, he's not a receiver in terms of the position, but you add that receiving dynamic to the offense. I think I can understand why Sean is very comfortable. And, I'm going to, we could put it in the chat, or I would love to know from everybody in the chat what wide receiver breakdowns they would like to see, because I'll start breaking those things down and putting them on the DNVR Twitter or YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I'll start breaking those receivers down and why he does feel comfortable. But when I watch Vele and what he's able to do in the slot as a bigger receiver, type of feet he has, that's incredible. And then you see Troy Franklin. He missed a big box fade against, I think, Carolina, and then there was one against Baltimore. But that type of speed you can't really teach. And then you saw them hit on the post in the postseason. Where both those in the post route in the postseason. So I can see why Sean is actually really very comfortable with the receiver room. 2 receivers that have 80 catches combined in their first year. I mean, you make your biggest stride between year 1 and year 2. So I can see why he's comfortable.
Okay. I'm curious what you think about Vele in particular, because he was fun to watch. I think there were some short third downs where he put him in the slot and they just hit that quick out route.
Yep.
And those are the plays that get me excited because, first of all, those out routes can be kind of tough throws for quarterbacks, and Bo's just nailing those to him. And then Vele is able to reach out in front of him and pull those passes in. To me, that's kind of where it all starts with him, is just the quick out, quick slant, like just the easy stuff right there. Do you agree? And then how do you kind of build off of that?
I do agree. And I think what's super unique is what Vele's 6'4".
Yeah.
You don't see that type of feat on a bigger receiver. You don't necessarily see a bigger receiver run a quick out. You just don't see that. Vele has the feet, got quick feet. I think, you hit it on the head when you're talking about the quick out and then the quick slant that he caught against New Orleans. You see the feet right there. I think there was one play against, I've already done some film breakdown, but there was one play against Carolina. He runs like an OTB, which is the over the ball route. He runs an OTB against Carolina against Tampa 2 coverage, but finds the soft part of the zone and catches the ball. Hands catcher. So I'm excited for Vele. And to have, just imagine this. You got Evan Ingram either in the slot or outside. Vele in the slot at 6'4", 6'5", and then Courtland on the outside, 6'4", 6'5".
It's massive.
This is massive.
Who can guard that?
Towers right there.
Totally.
And that just gives Bo plenty of room and options in terms of the red zone, high red area, third downs. So I really like Vele, and I like his feet.
Well, and especially when we're talking about Vele, when people think of a slot receiver, a lot of times they think of tiny and shifty guys, and they think of Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, those type of guys. You got to throw that out when you're thinking about Sean Payton's offense, because Sean Payton, while Michael Thomas wasn't necessarily a traditional slot, Michael Thomas ate on slant routes, and by those sort of just short passes, although he racked up 1,700 yards one season or something crazy.
169 catches.
Exactly. It was so many short passes and similar body type as Vele, and so Sean might even prefer a bigger body type in the slot than a traditional smaller guy. So when you think of that, you just have to think of the slot in a different way when you're thinking of Sean Payton's offense, right?
100%. And I think when you think about the Michael Thomas and his dynamic ability within the offense and leading the league in catches, however many catches he had that one year, I think it was over 160 catches. Yeah, Michael is a bigger body guy, 6'3", 6'4", Vele, 6'3", 6'4", and Michael would be running those quick slants, quick outs. So it was a play called Lucy, and it's an option route. So that's the play, or at least when it was in New Orleans, that was the play, and that's what it was called. And he would eat on that. And I think Vele has a similar opportunity to eat on those types of routes.
And that's either it's an option, meaning he can either go on the slant or go outside.
Go outside or sit, depending on the zone. So if you have 2 people outside of him, there's a huge hole in the zone. Vele can sit right there. If the defender's outside leverage go up to him, he's outside, break inside leverage, break outside. So has the option to do whatever he's trying to do right there. And I think I'd be curious to see what OTAs is going to be like when Vele comes back, because now they're going to be familiar with the offense. That's what's exciting about having Sean here. I know he's talking about how excited he was to not be in the quarterback market. What's now exciting for us as fans to come back with a legitimate receiver core that we saw last year,
totally,
and going into this year.
Totally. I think with Vele, it's going to be kind of fun to see. First of all, so Sean really likes those tall receivers who have short legs. Like he says, that's how you get like the quick route running. It's like the quick out. Big guys don't run that. He can run it because he's so low cut. Like his legs are just so short that he's just so quick in and out. I'm curious to see again, just like where he builds from here, because part of him is holding on to a bigger role is going to be taking a bunch of what Lil Jordan Humphrey did, which is block on those outside runs or screen passes. I think he did a pretty good job of that last year, but that might be the path for him to stay on the field more, is just to make sure that you're blocking well. I'm curious if we ever see him move to an outside, like boundary type role. because he doesn't necessarily have like the speed to test down the field. And so he might just be limited to the short catches.
Know that he doesn't
I don't think
speed?
we know that.
Yeah,
I just think we don't have the evidence that he does have that. Because I think he ran like a 4.48, which isn't bad.
Yeah.
It's definitely not bad, but we just haven't really seen the downfield stuff. It's been mostly a shifty, like right over the middle or quick out. You just need to see more at some point.
But see, I don't even know if you necessarily do need to see more. I think his role can be in the middle of the field, and maybe with Evan Ingram, because Ingram can actually go outside. So when Ingram's outside, maybe that's when Vele really steps inside. But I think where Vele's going to eat and where I'm comfortable with him already is that very first game that he played against the Seattle Seahawks, week 1, his first game in the NFL. He caught 8 passes on 8 targets for 43 yards. So meaning his depth of target was not deep at all. He's doing exactly what you're saying, little option routes, and he's just sticking right there, but he's catching everything. And I think that's going to be so key for him. And I have no reason to think that he's not going to continue to catch everything, but that's, I think, he's going to be Mr. Reliable. He's going to be on third down. Bo needs someone to catch the ball. Now it's good because it's not just going to be Vele. You can count on Courtland Sutton to catch passes as well, and you can count on Evan Ingram. They have multiple chain movers now on third down that I think is going to be so key. And we talk about Sean and what he likes. He loves tall guys. If the receiver spot, he talked about for the past 2 years, Tim Patrick, Courtland Sutton. We've got 3 or 4 guys that are 6'3" and taller on this, and that's just something that you can't guard if you're a defense. Because what? A big cornerback. Pat Surtain's about as big of a cornerback as you're going to get, and he's 6'2". Yep. A lot of other cornerbacks are 5'10", 5'11".
They're little pipsqueaks. That's what we used to call them. I like the fact that Sean is thinking like that. I also think it makes it very comfortable for Bo. If things are getting a little muddy in terms of the pocket, you can find a bigger receiver.
Definitely.
You can find a bigger receiver across the middle. You can find a bigger receiver in the slot. When I look at some of the film and, studying Troy Franklin's film along with Vele's film, Troy Franklin is a burner. He is that Emmanuel Sanders on the outside, hit you vertically and then run a comeback or run a dig or run the post. Vele, I like him in the slot. Gives Bo an option. I think he has better slot feet, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. Troy is not necessarily a slot jerk route runner. He is a burner, get you going with his speed and beat you down the field. Vele, I think he can do both. I think he has enough to run by you and run past you, but then also has enough of the quick twitch to stop and create the separation. Because in the slot, it's all about creating separation.
Totally. And I think with Troy, the question is just his hands. Like we've seen enough to say like, hey, if this is our Will Fuller type, like the guy who can just run down the field, stretch the defense.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
I know. Yeah, it's a throw. I'm trying to think of like the guys who like they've never had like, I'm sure at some point he hit 1,000 yards, but the guys who are like, yeah, they'll get you 600, 700, but you run them deep every single play and just create so much space. Like that to me is Troy's floor, assuming he can catch more passes. Because there's just a couple too many drops. And I think the concerning part is that it happened in training camp. And so it was once a week in training camp. You're like, oh no, how'd you not get that one? Like he was the only guy in all of training camp to beat Pat Surtain deep. Ball just bounces off his hands. And then it showed up during the season too. And again, he was 21 years old. Hopefully that just comes around a bit.
Do we know what his college, did he drop passes in college? Did that carry over, or do we know?
I don't remember having any doubts. I'd have to go back and check the numbers, but that was not like one of our big talking points, at least.
I think it was a little bit of a concern, but not like a huge one there.
I think he gets better. I think he gets better with time. I don't think Sean will actually go away from him. Obviously, him and Bo have the relationship as former college teammates, and I think that's something that he'll be more comfortable coming back into it this year and coming into his role this year. It could be a little bit nerve-wracking as a rookie, coming into the NFL, and that ball's a little bit different. There is no stripe on that ball, which is totally different in college. It's easier to see it coming. No stripe on this one.
Benny, how do we feel about number 16 being worn by a Bronco?
I feel great about it. I mean, that was my number here, and it means a tremendous amount to me. It's the first number I wore in the NFL. But also, Jake the Snake, I know he was the most famous person to wear 16. So shout out to Jake Plummer, real legend. He's the real 16 around here. But, I wore it for a couple years and hope I made people proud when I did.
Yeah, you did. And, you had such big shoes that Troy said, I can't wear 16 anymore. He switched to 11, going back to his college number.
College number.
Maybe to get that college juice back.
Maybe that makes him feel a little bit more comfortable. You put on that number. Everybody, what Peyton wore. Well, no, he wore 16.
You're right.
Yeah, he wore 16, but he wore 18 throughout his entire career. I just saw Russell Wilson. I don't know if should we bring Russell Wilson's name up on this show? I just saw he just went back to number 3, but whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know why I brought that up.
Who gave it away?
Broncos fans, forgive me.
Who gave that number?
I don't know.
Who had 3 on the Giants? I saw Russ
Drew Lock.
tweeted like it. No,
Was
no,
he gone?
someone else. Yeah.
Drew had 2.
Exactly.
was he?
Yeah,
He was
Drew
2.
had.
He
I think
wasn't
he
3.
changed to 2 when he went to Seattle.
Okay.
But there's one other name that we haven't mentioned that I think is the X factor for this receiver room and why I think Sean truly does like this room. And I agree with you, Benny. I think Sean's telling us the truth about how he feels about this room. And I want to get into that after I give a shout out to our friends over at Empire Today. You know the jingle, Empire Today. And they're going to give you $350 off if you use the code DNVR over at Empire Today. And the thing about Empire, everyone needs floors. You have to have a floor, whether it's in your business, in your home, whatever space you're in, you got to have a floor. And our friends over at Empire Today have the best floors. In fact, just like the Rockies, Nuggets, Avs, Broncos, we all have the home field advantage. You got to have the home floor advantage for yourself and get the experts over at Empire Today to get the best floors for you. You've all been to the big box stores and you just wander endlessly and you have no idea what you're doing. That's not going to be the case over at Empire Today. Over at Empire Today, they have exactly what you're looking for, and they're going to help you from the first step of the process till the very end, where you're not going to be left wondering if you got the right deal, because Empire is going to hook you up. You can schedule a free home estimate today by using the code DNVR. Get $350 off when you use that code DNVR. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/DNVR for details.
And shout out to our friends over at Volo. If you're in Denver and you want to play some sports, whether to like meet some new people, to stay active just because you're bored, whatever it is, Volo has some great options. Just on the website looking through, because they have so many different sports. Today is the final day of registration for a volleyball league, 2 volleyball leagues, and actually a co-ed 8v8 flag football league. Oh, wow. And then they've got traditional kickball plus flip cup. So you go play kickball, and then you go maybe here.
It's a good combo.
I think sometimes it is here at the DNVR bar to play flip cup. Cup in hand, kickball with flip cup if you want to drink twice. There's all sorts of different stuff. You guys can go check it out over at the Volo website. And right now, if you want to sign up, you can get a special discount. If you sign up as a free agent, small group, or full team, regardless of ability level or background, you can use the code DNVR10 and get $10 off any Volo Denver league.
And shout out to everyone tuning in with us, and hit us with a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. Twitter chat's popping off. And of course, love for Benny as always. Jose says, man, Benny is a Bronco through and through with that Jake Plummer shout out.
I appreciate that. I am a Bronco through and through. When you win a championship here, man, it changed your life forever. We got the 10-year reunion of the Super Bowl 50 team this fall. I was just actually at the facility and got a chance to see Todd there, and we're talking about the plans that we have for that weekend, and it's going to be an incredible alumni weekend. But would love for the chat if you guys want to see receiver breakdowns of Courtland, Troy Franklin, whoever you want to see receiver breakdowns. Be starting to post some of that stuff, and
Yeah.
I love it.
I checked out
love it.
Troy Franklin's numbers. So he had an 8% drop percentage at Oregon. It was 11.8 last year.
Okay.
So 4 total drops. You would think that'd be more like 3 given his college numbers. Yeah. So whatever the egregious one is in your head,
he had
you can
4
just take it
drops.
away.
He had 4 drops last year. You know what's crazy about drops is that 1 drop seems like 6.
It does.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And especially if you drop like a touchdown, and I've dropped a couple touchdowns in my career here at Michigan State, is that I probably had 3 drops one season, but like those 3 drops felt like 7 drops.
Totally.
Yeah.
I remember
just
like people would talk about Demarius too. Be like, I don't know, he drops the ball. And you're like, no, he doesn't. You just remember because he's been playing here a decade that like you remember one from 5 years ago that just sticks in your head.
Well, I think the tough thing is with DT and Jerry Jeudy as well. I think both of them had quote unquote drop. Well, DT, the quote unquote drop issues like his very first season. Obviously, we know Jerry Jeudy. He had 5 drops in one game his rookie season. And it is so tough to overcome initial impressions.
Totally.
DT comes on to become one of the best Broncos receivers of all time.
He's the best Broncos receiver ever.
Yes.
Better than Rod Smith?
Yes.
100%. And I love Rod.
Yes.
I mean, when you look at DT's overall body of work in terms of the receiver position, don't take out the 2 Super Bowls because that's where a lot of Rod gets a lot of his credit, which he deserves that.
Yeah.
But when you think about Demaryius, his total body of work, being a first-round pick, coming in here, living up to all of the expectations. Maybe the first couple years were slow, but living up to all of the expectations, what he did on the field here was insane. And then once he got the quarterback, you saw it.
Yep.
He was right behind Calvin Johnson for, 4 years straight?
Yeah.
Totally.
DT was walking in the building, and you knew you were going to get 1,300 yards, over 90 catches, and almost double-digit touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I love Trevor Siemian, love T-Money Wiggle. He had 1,000 yards with Trevor Siemian.
Yeah.
He did.
I love Trevor.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, everybody in the NFL is good, but to have 1,000 yards with T-Money, come on. It didn't matter who the quarterback was once DT got his confidence. So, but yeah, I think, him and Rod, 1A, 1B, but I'm definitely taking DT.
Yeah.
DT take over game. What we see, what do you have against Arizona? 272 off of 13 catches. Come on.
Ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, if Peyton was here, his worst season was 1364.
Yeah.
That's just an insane number.
I do think everything you said about DT's right. I do think you're sleeping on Rod just a little bit. In 9 seasons, he had 8,000-yard seasons right there.
Yep.
It just insane. Maybe
Did he lead the league in receiving yards ever?
He led in 2001. He led the league in catches, 113. The year before that, he did not lead the league in receiving yards, but he had 1,600 yards in 2000, which is crazy without John Elway, which is crazy. Now, again, it's not. This isn't like a DT versus Rod thing.
No.
It's just it's crazy the numbers that Rod put up before the league exploded in passing. It was just right before the league exploded in passing.
Yeah.
Number one, those stats are incredible. And like you said, I think it's important for the listeners out here to understand it's not a DT versus Rod thing.
They're both really good.
They're insane. They're both going into the ring. Well, Rod's already in the Ring of Fame. DT will be in there soon, probably, without a doubt. But in terms of overall dominance, if I had to pick a receiver, which I think where it comes down to, if you had to pick a receiver to win a game with, who are you going to pick? Who's going to dominate that game for you? Blocking, yards after catch, running through the ball.
Good blocker too. So is DT though.
Yeah. I have clips on my phone of DT blocking people.
No doubt.
With
no
one
doubt.
hand throwing people.
Man, I mean, the physical, what it comes down to, when you ask that, because they're both so good, it's the physical tools, and
DT
there's
was
a reason.
Specimen.
I mean, there's a reason why DT was the first round pick, and then you compare it to Rod, who was undrafted. The physical tools there,
I love Rod.
You probably are. You probably are taking DT there,
100%.
or are you taking Brandon Marshall? If you're talking about one game. A guy that had 22 catches, the most catches in a game ever
against Indianapolis.
How many?
I used to watch his highlights.
How many did DT have in that first Super Bowl?
Was it 16? I think
was it 16?
He set a Super Bowl
Does that really
record.
count though? Because we got blown out.
That's fair.
those
That's
are
fair.
you're getting beat so bad that you have to throw the ball.
Totally.
Don't get me wrong, it's a Super Bowl record, but are we really 16
But I mean,
catches?
if we're talking Brandon Marshall, 22 catches, 16 in a Super Bowl is pretty good too.
Yeah, but you're down by 35. I don't think Brandon Marshall. I think the Broncos had a chance to win that game. I don't know if they won against Indy, but I don't know. B. Marsh catching 22 passes in a game that's diabolical.
Yeah. They both just had crazy moments too. Rod and DT. It was DT. The first thing you think of is the catch against. Yeah, totally. The catch against the Steelers. They takes the house, and you're just that's an all-time Broncos moment. But Rod Smith also has the Super Bowl against the Falcons, where they come back from commercial late, and Rod Smith has a 50-yard bomb in his hands.
Catches a post across the field, crazy play action.
Totally.
Play. Some of these things are just ingrained in my memory.
Yeah.
But shout out to Rod too. I mean,
yes.
A mentor of mine and somebody who really helped me understand the receiver position. I actually reached out to him because I was undrafted when I came out here. You could just reach out to people on social media, and I would work out with Rod And all 4 years that I was here in the off season, we go to Cherry Creek High School and
That's awesome.
teach me different things and different elements of route running. So shout out to
way
Rod.
cool. That is way cool. I will say, I think the most electric single play in Broncos history is Tebow to DT to beat the Steelers in overtime.
The helicopter. It's tough. There's a lot of them.
The helicopter. I don't know. I would say.
I think the helicopter for sure. Just overall,
I'm saying
legendary
electric.
Bronco electric. Oh yeah, because it was at home.
It was at home.
Also true.
It won the game. It was a walk-off. The crowd's going absolutely crazy.
Tebow mania.
They panned to John Elway. He can't believe what's going on. They panned to Ben Roethlisberger. He can't believe he just lost a playoff game to Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
And everyone's freaking. Yeah, it was Tebow mania. Like, I just think electric. It was that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Man, this is fun. And we haven't even got to the guy who I think might be the most fun and electric receiver on this Broncos team. And it's Marvin Mims. I think he is the X factor for this receiver room. I think if Marvin takes the step that the Broncos hope he can take, which we saw at the end of last season, final 2 games of the season, Marvin Mims has 4 receiving touchdowns. Sean Payton unlocked him the final 6 games of the season. I think if he takes that step and continues to be that guy he was at the end of last season, the Broncos could have a really good receiver room. Top 10 receiver room in the NFL with Court, him, Vele, and I should say passing game, because I am going to throw Evan Ingram in here. I think he's going to be just such a crucial part of this passing
Got a
game right
one-on-one
here.
conversation coming on with Evan
Oh,
next Tuesday.
let's
guys.
go.
Next Tuesday.
Hell
Bringing it to the squad.
Hell of a tease. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
So stay tuned for that. That's huge right there. Now, if Marvin Mims really takes a step back, not a step back, but he was the guy who he was in the first 18 games of his NFL career in terms of a receiver and, comparable to Troy Franklin in terms of just who he is, then the Broncos, in my opinion, do have a big hole at that wide receiver too, assuming Vele's kind of that slot guy in the middle of the field. But I think the Broncos see what Marvin Mims did, and specifically Sean says, I finally realized how I unlocked Marvin Mims, and I think Sean believes he's going to continue to do that.
I want to know from you guys, what does a step forward for Marvin Mims actually mean for you? And then I'll share mine.
It means finding more ways to get open. It needs to be more than just deep balls and screens. It's got to be, again, we talk about the quick out, a quick out to Marvin, a quick slant to Marvin, because right now, again, he came in super raw. He came from that Oklahoma offense that was all just space and pace. It's not about the precise route running. And he's kind of slowly developing that route tree. But to me, that's what you need, is whether it's even just the counter, the comebacks coming off the deep ball, whether it's the deep digs that we see work with Courtland. It's just becoming more well-rounded and finding more ways to get catches other than hey, home run, lottery ball, let's see if we hit this, and we'll feed it to you behind the line of scrimmage and let you go.
Yeah. Zach, how about you?
I don't know. I think it is just the home run ball. It's being the big play guy, because that's what he was the final 6 games of last season. He had, in the final 5 games of the regular season, he had 23 catches. So what? 5 catches a game, which is pretty good, but it's not that 10 catch per game crazy. 341 yards, 15 yards per catch, which is way up there. And then 5 touchdowns. And when I think of the final stretch of his season, I think back to that Cincinnati game where he had the 50-yard completion from Bo, and it was a great throw. But that catch, the degree of difficulty on that, where he's fully stretched out, running at full speed, gets both feet in at the back of the end zone, that's a big-time play. And then you remember the other one to send the game into overtime was he's just surrounded by 2 people, makes an incredible jump ball catch. I do think just for him to continue to take that next step, it's becoming that home run threat.
I think for me, Marvin taking that next step, what it will look like to me this upcoming year is just more consistency all around. So I think it will be 10 of the jet sweeps or 10 reverses. I think it will be 3 or 4 catches on the quick outs. I think it will be a couple of deep digs. I think it will be a couple of posts. But instead of the 23 catches in the last 5 games, I think we will see a bigger body of work where it's 35 to 40 catches, what you saw Vele and Troy Franklin have in terms of catches and targets. I think Sean will actually find a rhythm to find him and get him the ball. I would expect Marvin to touch the ball at least 3 to 4 times each game, not just the last couple of parts of the season, because now Sean knows exactly who this kid is and who he is with Bo. That's what I think Sean is who he is with Bo. You know, he had Russell Wilson, moon ball guy, blah, blah. Now you have Bo, more precision. Bo takes his shots down the field, but also does it on short and intermediate
Get him on
routes.
a drag and let him catch and run.
100%.
Yeah.
How about this? This is incredible. And I know it's only 5-game sample size, the final 5 games of the regular season last year. If you would take that over a 17-game season, what it would look like if you were to just continue that 5-game stretch for this entire next season. He would catch 78 passes on 88 targets. That's an insane, what is that, 90%,
That's
85%?
an incredible percentage.
1,159 receiving yards, 17 touchdowns, which is crazy. And he's doing this on only 36% of the offensive snaps, meaning when he's on the field, opposing teams better know exactly where he is, maybe more than anyone else on the field. Now, that's going to be tough when you have Courtland, when you have Evan Ingram, and that's just probably going to open up him more. It's probably going to open up these other guys more. But what an insane 5-game stretch right there. And that's why I feel so comfortable that if he's able to do anything close to what he did those final 5 games, that the Broncos have a really good receiver room, because I think Courtland's really good. I think Marvin, if he plays like that, is borderline elite right there, and Evan Ingram's
if he plays like that,
too.
If he plays like that, oh my God,
Exactly.
he's more than borderline elite.
Yes.
If you can get 17 touchdowns in an NFL season, you are definitely more than borderline elite. You are elite. You probably lead the league in touchdowns, but I definitely see a lot of growth in terms of him. 89 catches is a lot.
Yeah.
Especially when you have Evan coming in, you have Courtland. I think we will draft a receiver. I don't think we'll draft a receiver on day one, but I think we'll get somebody. And then I don't know if there's still a veteran out there that might want to sign a minimum deal, and come play in this offense.
So let's continue that, because I love where you're going with that conversation. Who will the Broncos get? What is the need? Now that we've broken down this receiver and we've pretty much broken down everyone, what is the need like? And I want to know that from you, Benny, if there is a need in the receiver room and what it looks like. And I want to do that after I give a shout out to our friends over at Monarch Money, where at the end of every month, I just had it happen again. You're like, you go off to pay the credit card and you're like, where did my money go? And then you kind of have to take a step back, and it takes a long time to go through to add everything up. Well, you can take that hassle out by going over to Monarch Money. They are going to be your, they're going to tell you where your money's going, not just with one credit card, but they're going to take all your credit cards, all your checking accounts, your savings accounts, your investments, and put it into one thing and organize it very, very straightforward for you. And so if you don't want to be your own CFO, you want to have Monarch Money be your CFO, you can get 50% off. They're giving that to our listeners by using the code DNVR over at monarchmoney.com. 50% off for your first year of saving money over at monarchmoney.com using that code DNVR. They are going to be your personal CFO, and they are also Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025. So make sure to check them out and use that code DNVR over at monarchmoney.com.
And shout out to Raising Cane's. We all know Raising Cane's. It's the best. If you're looking for chicken fingers and crinkle cut fries, the Texas toast, coleslaw, it's just the best food out there, I think. It's really tough to beat. The crinkle cut fries come from grade A premium potatoes. The Texas toast, thick sliced, lightly brushed with Cane's garlic butter blend, grilled on the griddle to golden brown perfection. And most importantly, where the secret recipe Cane sauce is made in restaurant every day, making the full box combo so special for you. If you guys want to check it out, you can come to our opening day party tomorrow morning at Wing Coop Brewing, because we'll have some Raising Cane's giveaways. But you can also just head to Raising Cane's and get your combo box today. Make your craveable dreams a reality. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love.
So, Benny, when you look at this receiver room, what do the Broncos need in an addition? Or do they need anything?
Yeah, they definitely need still a route runner. I think, that 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, no matter what the coverage is, that person can win.
Yep.
But I also think that can be developed within the room. If I had, my pick, I would love to see, and Broncos fans don't, go all crazy. But I would love to see somebody like an Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
You know, somebody who can just win on a slant. You know, I don't need Amari Cooper to come here and catch 80 passes. I need him to catch 40.
Yep.
And just be a route runner, be a vet on this team, be somebody super reliable for Bo. But at the same time, I also know why Sean is really comfortable. Now that I have actually looked at the film and watched it with my own eyes, not the TV copy, but the coach's copy, I can see why he's very comfortable. You have a jump ball guy in Courtland Sutton and also somebody who runs your deep overs, your dig routes. He can beat you on an under. He can beat you on the slant. He's got a big body. You add in Evan Ingram, big body, third down, red zone, good route runner, can run the shallows, can run the basic routes, which is a 10 to 12 yard in route. Evan can also run the deep in routes, which are 18 to 22. He can also run your slants. He can run your corners. You have a Marvin Mims who can run your shallows, who can get the screens. Troy Franklin can get the shallows, the screens. Both of those guys are over-the-top guys who can both run posts, go routes, deep stop routes at 15 yards and coming back to 13 yards for Bo. So you have that dynamic ability right there. And then you have Vele, who's your do-it-all Swiss Army knife in terms of he can play outside, play inside, but he's smart enough to play on the inside, has the feel, has the ability to run the routes, the quick out routes, the deep out routes from 10 to 12, the basic routes from 10 to 12, breaking in. So if you look at that and just what I explained, you pretty much have everything kind of covered. Besides that, okay, who's that one person, a Demarius or a Rod, who's like, all right, we're going to run a slant right here. You know we're going to run a slant, and you can't do anything about it.
Benny, thank you so much because I've been saying for months now that Sean truly does like this receiver room, but Henry and Ryan, they're like, maybe it's too quiet though. They're not doing anything. Maybe it's for a reason, and it's been making me feel like I've started to doubt myself. Like maybe it will be a receiver in the first round, and I'm just like, that's not what I think Sean is going to do. But like, they haven't made any move at receiver, and I'm like, are these guys right? Is it maybe a move at receiver going to happen? And so hearing you, I'm back on my no receiver. Sean truly does. I'm believing what Sean has been saying. I don't think it's a smoke screen. And then on top of what you said, like, I think an Amari Cooper makes a lot of sense. The Broncos, in terms of young guys outside of Court, they kind of have everything that you need and that you want in terms of talent and potential. And I just think that you go a different route in the first round there. But one of the names, well, I'll let you talk first, Henry, but I think when you were talking, there was one name that stood out in my mind in terms of this draft, not in the first round, that I'll get to after I let Henry react to what Benny said.
Yeah, I think what's missing is a route runner who can catch the ball on the run and go.
Yep.
And that's the one piece that you just don't have right now. And you still hold out some hope that Marvin's going to get there. Again, like, he's only 23. Those things could still come. You know, DeVaughn Vele.
He's a little guy, though.
He is.
Like, how many little guys do we see
It's
with
rare.
the catch and run opportunity?
It's
like,
rare.
Like Tyreek Hill.
Right.
But other than that, like, who in the NFL right now is small, run after the catch, high volume catch guy?
Totally.
Yeah.
It just you just don't really see it. Again, with Vele, it is nice to get those 3, 4, 5, 6 yard catches, and they're very important in some situations. But just having the ability to add more onto that at the end will go such a long way for this offense. And that's the piece that I think is missing, is just a guy who will get open in different parts of the field, mostly just like the little in-breaking routes for the most part, but will catch the ball on the run, won't jump when he catches it, and just takes it and bends the corner and goes.
Yeah.
I think the guy that would be perfect for this, and you're talking about a late day 2, early day 3, is CSU receiver Tory Horton. Out of Colorado State. This is a guy who I think has what you're talking about. I definitely think he's a really, really good route runner. He's someone that has caught, I think, over 100 balls in a season at CSU, or close to 100 balls, led the Pac-12, or led the Mountain West in catches one year, receiving yards the other year. I would absolutely love this, and I think this is kind of the type of guy Sean's looking for, like third round pick, fourth, fifth round pick. I do think the Broncos draft a receiver, but I think it's in that range right there. And we've seen Sean, he has occasionally used some high picks on a receiver. I think the highest pick he's used most recently on a receiver One is Marvin Mims 2 years ago, a second-round pick, and then Michael Thomas, a second-round pick a couple years ago, and then you have to go back a decade to the last time he used a first-round receiver.
But he likes Ohio State receivers too.
Well,
he's big on just Ohio State in general, but he likes, Michael Thomas from there. I don't think he drafted Olave, but he drafted Ted Ginn. I think Ted Ginn was a draft pick of his.
Well, then, so there's a first-round receiver from Ohio State, Egbuka.
Yeah.
Yep.
You think he could be in play? And he might kind of fit what Henry's saying in terms of like a route runner.
He's smooth. He is smooth. He's a route runner. He can catch and run. Yeah. We were just having this conversation upstairs. I'm curious about the upside there, just because, in the past 2 years, he has one 100-yard game. Went for like 117 against Marshall. And it's not the end of the world, but sometimes you look back and say, like, again, if you're talking him in the first round, you talk Tetairoa McMillan in the first round, like he had a 200-yard game. He had a 300-yard game. And that's the tough part. Is like,
who, Egbuka, not a first-round pick?
What Henry just brought up is very important to me because when you're playing at an elite school like in Ohio State, what did Jackson Smith and Jigba have in the Rose Bowl? 300 yards receiving.
You had those moments.
Yeah, like there are too many teams that Ohio State plays where you have to have huge games.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I think Michael Thomas, when he was playing Michigan State, my school, I think he had like 200 yards.
Yeah.
So that's a little alarming if you're going to go for a first round pick. But I also think the Broncos need to go after running back in the first couple of rounds.
Yeah.
We need somebody super dynamic in the backfield before we go to receiver.
And if you go back to like 2022, Egbuka had a few of those games, like especially early in the year, he kind of burst onto the scene. I think he had one like late in the year postseason. But again, like you have a few games of at least 200 yards for a guy like Tetairoa McMillan. And like the consistency is valuable. At the same time, a first round pick is tough. Arizona.
So that's the big cat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
6'5",
Like when I think
6'4".
about him, like, geez, like that, we have like the Nuggets receiver room.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so true.
Because you can go back and look at what he did to Travis Hunter in 2023, who is incredible prospect.
Yeah.
Like I will never say a bad thing about Travis Hunter. Tetairoa McMillan got him though, and that's maybe the only
What
guy.
was his stats?
Let's see if I can find it. I'm pulling up now. 2024 to 2023, it was 9 catches, 107 yards, and a touchdown.
Wow.
And Travis Hunter was guarding him?
At least for the most part. I can't say that it was every single one of those, but it was pretty great.
That's a little eye-opening right there.
And then the next week he goes to Utah, 116 yards. And the next week he goes to Arizona State, the rivalry game, 11 for 266. And then the next week he goes, I guess a few weeks later, goes and plays Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl, puts up 160. Like that, there's a different
if
level
he's there
for a
at
guy
20,
like
you
that.
still think we take him over a running back?
No.
I think so. I think so. It's just the value. The value.
What's different? What does he add to the receiver room that's not already in there?
And that's a tough part. I think that he is pretty similar to a DeVaughn Vele and a Courtland Sutton. I think even Fran Duffy, our draft guy, his comp is Courtland Sutton. And so there is a redundancy there. But you just have to remember it's Courtland Sutton with another inch, with another 10 pounds, who, like, you just see a guy who's built like that. And I don't think you can pass it up because he does win in the middle of the field. And when he gets up to speed, he does catch and run. He's not the fastest, of course, because he has long legs. He's a big guy. I think that he's just talented enough, though, that you find room for him.
So you draft him, and then Courtland's only here for one more year because you're not going to have two Courtland
That's
Sutton
the chance.
types.
That's the chance.
One of the things we learned earlier this week is the Broncos will do deals and extend some of their current players, but Benny, they're waiting until after the draft. That's been George Payton's thing since he's been here, is wait until after the draft to extend those guys.
Yep.
And they play it off, and I'm sure there's some truth to this, but they play it off as we're focused on free agency. Now we're focused on the draft, and that's where all of our attention goes to. And that's probably right.
Yeah.
But what if you do get a guy that's going to replace Courtland Sutton that you didn't think you were going to get? Or it's not just Courtland Sutton specific, JFM. If you get a defensive lineman that falls to you in the first or second round that you weren't expecting to get, well, now you haven't re-signed JFM, so you trade him or you just let his deal expire after one more season. And so I think there's a reason why they kind of wait till after the draft and wait until they see exactly where the roster is, and then they can move forward with those guys.
Isn't that refreshing, though, for us as fans of the team to see a focused front office, a focused coaching staff in terms of how they do their process, and like, hey, we're not changing anything.
Yeah.
If this is how we're going to do it, and this is how we've done it since Sean's been here, this is how we're going to continue to do it. We're going to focus on the draft. We're going to try to get value in the draft, and then we will handle extensions after that. And you have to just appreciate that, and you have to appreciate the way they're going about their business, because right now it is working. Year 1, okay. Year 2, better than expected. Year 3, now it's time to be consistent. And how do we show everybody that the Broncos, are back on the map? And I think that's exactly what they're doing with the signings in free agency, with their process. Now they have just things dialed in, and it's good to see that become institutionalized again for the Broncos.
Man, especially, Benny, when you see other teams really messing things up with their own players. Like Trey Hendrickson, one of the big storylines from the owners' meetings this week was how they are
clown ownership.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's upset with the way things are going. That apparently the Bengals are lying about what's actually happening. You hear out of Dallas that Jerry Jones isn't talking to Micah Parsons' agent, and instead only going to Micah and says, "I'm not going to talk to your agent. We're going to get a deal done." Well, that's shady as can be. And now you see Michael Parsons come out and he's saying how
Is
he's
that
not going to
shady
get
as
a
can be?
deal.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not a Dallas guy at all, and I think
Yeah.
Jerry Jones, I think that's another clown show in the NFL. And,
Yeah.
you know, don't get me wrong, they run an incredible marketing business and advertising business with the Cowboys, but they don't actually care about winning anything.
Yep.
But if you're Micah Parsons, what's the problem with talking to Jerry Jones one-on-one? Hey, Jerry, I want $42 million a year. I want to be the highest paid non-quarterback, and this is what I want.
Because that's all great. But then I think the Cowboys have something weird in their contracts where the only person they give like the 3rd year guaranteed to is their quarterback. And so Jerry might throw out, here's a 7-year contract that's going to pay you $45 million a year. And then the fine print, it's like, only the first 2 years are guaranteed.
Micah still should go back to his agent and say, hey, read this over.
But he doesn't want, it seems like Jerry doesn't want him communicating with his agent. And then Micah's come out and
If I was Micah Parsons, I could negotiate my own contract. I don't need my agent's help right now. This is what I want. Whatever Myles Garrett got, I want a couple $1 million on top of that.
Yep.
The same deal structure, more signing bonus, guaranteed this much. And then I'm going to have my agent read it over. When you're the best, it's like...
yeah.
Hard negotiations.
It's like negotiating for like LeBron James. Like, no, this is... Or if I was Jokic right now, like, I don't need an agent to negotiate. I'm the best. Like,
But what
this
Micah,
is what I want.
But what
max
Micah
and
said
it's
is,
guaranteed.
but Micah has said he doesn't like that. I mean, he came out on Twitter and said, "I don't want this to be this way. I want my agent talking to you guys." So it's a mess. It's a mess with the Bengals. It's a mess with the Cowboys. And to your point, Benny, it's not a mess in Denver.
Yep.
And that's because the ownership's right, the GM's right, the head coach is right. Everything is right now going into their 3rd year altogether.
Very thoughtful organization, just starting down from ownership. And I think, you know, what you loved about Pat Bowlen and his ownership style is just the intentionality, who he was, the care for the team. And I think that's what you're getting back to in Denver. And that's what's super exciting about the Walton Penner Group, is that they care about the team. They really care about winning. And then you have somebody who's done it before, as in Sean at a New Orleans, and what they were able to do and build that roster, but also the way they drafted, the way they added people in free agency. There was a process to everything. So I love the dynamic between Sean Payton and George Payton.
Yep. And let's continue to talk about some things we learned this week. But let's put a bow on this conversation. 3 weeks out, 21 days away from the draft. Benny, what percentage would you say the Broncos are gonna draft a receiver in the first round?
5%.
5%. Henry?
It's tough. I would say defensive line's probably most likely. The trade up for Genty thing is tough because I have a tough time believing they draft a running back if it isn't Ashton Genty, just because there's so many of them, and the guys who are there aren't necessarily the perfect fits. Give me 25%. I'll say running back, defensive line, wide receiver, and everything else. Equal chances.
Give me 10%. You'd knock me down from like 25% though to 10% today. Benny, I want to get your thoughts on some other comments made this week at the owners' meetings. And we got 3 clips to play, and I want to react to them after we hear them. So let's start with the first one. Sean Payton talking about how nice it is to not be in the quarterback market.
I appreciate not being in that quarterback market. it's difficult. We were talking last night, George and Greg. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure to get that right, and when you don't have it right, it's one of those positions where it can kind of consume you as an organization. And fortunately, a year ago this time we were able to do that. We're just getting into the heart of the meetings now, so the mocks or what have you would be stuff we'll throw into a computer.
I mean, yeah, I can't imagine how much of a relief it is for everyone in the organization to have their quarterback this offseason.
100%. I think when you think about the coaching, I think we're going to see a next step in Sean's coaching evolution as a Denver Broncos head coach, because now, coming in here with Russell Wilson, who we know he didn't like at all, then you get your guy in Bo Nix, but he's a rookie, so you have to tread lightly in terms of how much you can put on his plate. And then now, going into year 2 with Bo, they've probably already been having conversations. Bo's probably already been in the building. Now I just think you're going to see more of explosive and dynamic plays from Bo, the offensive play calling, the different styles and things that you can see. Because Sean is very much a rhythm play caller. Let me find out who my people are. And both all seasons so far have been, let me figure out this team now because I'm a new head coach in a new organization, new city. And then now I'm going into year 2, but I need to find a quarterback. I got rid of the other one. And now I think we're going to see just more of, not a relaxed Sean Payton, because he's all about winning and he's a hard charger. But we're going to see some exciting things this year, just offensively, creativity from him as a play caller, just because he doesn't have to worry about, who's my quarterback going to
Right.
be?
I can't imagine how stressful things were a year ago from now, but I also can't imagine right after the Broncos got Bo, where Sean's starting point was with the offense, because it wasn't just a rookie quarterback. It was, you had 3-way quarterback competition with Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson, and Bo going into the offseason, then going into training camp as well. I can't imagine how different Sean's approach is from that time until when OTAs start in late May this year, when there's no quarterback competition. Bo's been in this system for an entire year. He's not a rookie anymore. That just has to be like night and day for Sean.
Oh, yeah. In terms of reps, I think, OTAs, everybody's pretty much getting, I think the starters will get 6 reps per period. Then you'll have the 3s or the 2s get 4 reps, and then you'll have the 3s get 2 reps, which are the rookies. But Bo gets all 6 reps now.
Yep.
That's big time. And then he gets all the reps in training camp. That's big time. And then now it is a little bit easier in terms of, okay, who are the receivers? Who are our 1 receivers? Bo is getting all the reps with them.
Yeah.
That's where the chemistry starts to get built here in OTAs. Then you go to mini camp, and then Bo's going to be throwing with these guys in the off season or in the 6-week period before training camp. And then he gets all the training camp reps with Vele, with Courtland Sutton, with Mims, with Troy Franklin. That is where, that's where I really got the chance to learn and see how Payton, as a quarterback, really built the rapport with a Wes Welker or an Emmanuel Sanders or a Demaryius Thomas. When I think back to the 2014 signing of Emmanuel, that was my first year there. They were picking up right from day one in terms of OTAs, mini camp, training camp, before practice, during practice, after practice. And I think, obviously, it won't be Payton-esque in terms of, because Payton was in year 17 at the time, but you will see that now where Bo is like, all right, I need this rep. Or, hey, Troy, get up here. I want you to run this route. Or, hey, Vele, I want you to take that, because he wants to get the reps with his guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think even big picture, just Bo understanding what Sean's trying to do. Because I think last year was a lot of it that just rushed to get Bo ready so that he can go out there and run the offense functionally. Now it's Sean's whole philosophy is we get all these different personnel groups onto the field and we see how the defense defends them. It's we got Evan Ingram and Adam Troutman out there. Are they just going to go 3-4? Because then we get the mismatch with Evan Ingram. Are they going to go light? So you get all these different receivers filtering through. You get these at least 2 running backs filtering through, the different tight ends. And for Bo to be able to kind of pick up on okay, this is what we're doing. We're figuring out how we can build these mismatches and then take advantage of them. It's just a different level versus, hey, the first read here, second read here, third read here. It's now understanding what you're doing and actually like playing NFL football.
Or Bo coming back to Sean like, hey, this is what I like.
Exactly. Yes.
I want Troy on this route.
Totally.
Or I want Courtland on this route. And then it really becomes now it's going to become more of, it's not going to be Sean telling, hey, Bo, this is how it is. It's like more of a dialogue and a conversation of like, hey, like Sean's going to ask him like, how do you feel about this play? It's like, I'm not comfortable, or I really like this, but I'd rather have this person out here doing that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Do you think that Bo was 100% comfortable telling Sean exactly what he wanted on day one of OTA? Probably not. Like last year as a rookie?
He won't be comfortable doing it this year either. I think he'll just have more of a
Be a
moxie
little more
about him to go do
comfortable.
it. It's still going to be uncomfortable for him.
There was one time it happened on the sideline.
It's
I love
true.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love the fiery, competitive nature. Like, hey, Sean, back up. I'm
Yeah.
out here playing. Let me do me.
We even saw like the clip came up again on Twitter this week of Peyton Manning just screaming at Jeff Saturday, saying like, "You're not changing plays. What are you doing? Like, we're gonna pass the ball and you're gonna pass block, and like you better be block." Like lighting into him.
That was every day.
I believe it.
It was the best. I
Yes.
mean, the best. My 2 years with Peyton, I was so spoiled in terms of how things were supposed to be done. I mean, it's one of the reasons why, I didn't have a stellar Pro Bowl career or whatever, but I know the game inside and out because I played with Peyton Manning for 2 years, and I know how it's supposed to be done. I know what it's supposed to be look like. I saw the best quarterback at the line of scrimmage and who perfected the quarterback position. I've seen it done.
Yep.
I know what it looks like. I know how it's supposed to go in practice. I know how it's supposed to go on game days. I know how it's supposed to go to get to the playoffs. So, I mean, it's exciting to see. But it was nerve-wracking every day playing with Peyton.
How many quarterbacks do you think there are like that? I mean, you mentioned how Peyton's the best at the line of scrimmage.
I mean, I think Peyton played the quarterback position the best ever.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
no one could ever duplicate anything that he did. Don't get me wrong, Tom is incredible and obviously the best winner of all of football. Best winner. Who played the quarterback position the best during the 18 years that Peyton was in the league? Nobody. It's the reason why he has 5 MVPs.
Yeah. Yeah.
He dominated the league.
Yeah.
And they were in the same division.
Yeah.
Who's got more All-Pros?
Yeah.
Peyton.
Yeah.
There's a reason why.
I love it.
He was the better quarterback.
Yep. Yep.
Like,
Yep.
That's not negotiable. Like, you don't just go back and say, hey, like, Tom was actually the first team All-Pro quarterback. No, Peyton was.
Yep. Yep. I love it. I love it. He got the MVPs.
I mean, so I think Tom is like that. I think Drew Brees is like that. I mean, I played with Drew in 2020 when I was playing with Sean. I had 1 week with the Patriots after I got cut after Chicago, and I got a chance to see Tom work. I mean, he's the most competitive person. Paper basketball, bet me $500 right here. Whatever. He's insanely. What people say about Michael Jordan. I think Tom Brady has that. He doesn't fear failure at all, and I think that's why he's really good.
So
He doesn't process it.
Tom might be the ultimate competitor, but Peyton was the best quarterback you ever played with.
Yeah, not even close.
I love it. We got to clip that. That's huge. Final thing that I want to get your take on here, Benny, is something that Sean talked about. And we'll hear from it in a second, but he talked about how guys are in the building already. And what I want to ask you is that unique? Is this different where guys are in the building before April even starts? Let's hear what Sean had to say.
Yeah, I think number one, we have a lot of players that are already back lifting and working out, which is great, especially this time of the year. There are some cities that the off season is more challenging relative to attendance. Fortunately for us, that's not a big challenge for us. I think players generally want to train in altitude and at our facilities, and then once they've had 2 years of it now, and to see where we're at relative to health and safety, injury data, like we're first in the league again.
Is that unique?
That is really unique. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Denver, but I was never thinking about staying here, at least when I was playing here. I was thinking about either LA or Arizona for the offseason. I always went to LA. and I think that was for a majority of the players. But I think our facility now, what the ownership has put into the new locker room, the new things and all the modalities that are there, it's very different than when I was here.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's different, and I think that's super exciting because you don't have to necessarily worry about players and will they make it back for OTAs on time, or if Bo's already here, Courtland's probably here,
Yeah.
or Troy Franklin's probably here. You know, just these different things, and I think they're getting ready to get together. Bo and those guys are getting ready to get together before OTAs. I know we're going to get some nice weather next week, so I'm super excited about that.
Really quick, we're going to continue this conversation and wrap it up over at thednvr.com, where we're going to go into overtime on this conversation. And just like you were saying, Benny, a report came out from Chris Thomason that Bo and Marvin and Courtland and probably others, I would imagine, are going to get together in Colorado before OTA start on April 22nd.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, Bo's now taking the leadership step of like, hey, putting together the passing camps. You know, I never got invited to the Manning
I can't
passing.
believe that. I can't believe that.
Well, I was an undrafted guy, practice squad guy first year. All right, you know, second year going into everything. You know, Peyton doesn't know if I'm going to make the team. Like, he's got to see me during training camp. So I didn't get the invite. You know, that's for the first 4 or 5 receivers, but I end up, you know, catching the last pass. So it's all good. But it's exciting to see Bo just take the step of leadership and now, you know, who he's going to be in this locker room for this franchise and starting to build the reps and starting to get the reps. You know, they can get a lot of reps in right now, number one, because he's young, and also these young receivers. So it's going to be just exciting, and I'm glad that, you know, he's just taking that leadership role. That's incredible to see.
Yep. Especially as a second-year guy, and clearly this is his team. I mean, when you're the 12th overall pick, you're given the opportunity for this to be your team, and then you're voted a captain. Well, first you go out and win the job. Then you're voted a captain by your team as a rookie, which is crazy. And now I love that he's not being timid about it. He's just taking it and running with it.
Yep, he knows it. And I think that's probably the communication that he has with Sean. And Sean's like, hey, man, this is your team now. We're giving you the keys, and we're surrounding you with talent, and we're going for this thing.
Yep. Man, I'm so pumped. What an awesome show. Thank you, Benny, for jumping on. Thank you, Henry, for riding along with me this entire week. And that's our last show of this week because we're going to be out at opening day for the Rockies tomorrow. Like Henry said, we're going to be at WinCoop. Make sure to join us. And we're going to have giveaways, Raising Cane is going to be there. And we're going to be, Coors Lights are going to be flowing. It's going to be an awesome time. Make sure to join us tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in. Shout out to Benny for joining us with a nice tease about what to expect next week, too. And thank you. We will see you. Have a great weekend. Go Rockies. How about that?
Yep.
And we'll see you on Monday.
We all silly like the mayor.